Welcome to the Explainer. You hear this phrase all the time, right? I'm spiritual but not religious. But what does that actually mean? Well, it turns out it can point to two completely different ways of looking at the world. One is about seeking a real connection, and the other, well, it's about a form of spiritual control. Let's dive in. So this one little phrase, it can really be a fork in the road. It often points to one of two profoundly different worldviews. Let's start with the one that's been around for thousands of years, a really ancient form of what gets called spirituality. Okay, so this first path is rooted in an ancient pagan philosophy, sometimes called ruhaniyat. And the core idea here is that the divine isn't some being way out there. No, it's the very fabric of nature itself. God and the universe, they're one and the same. Think about it like this. In this worldview, the entire cosmos is basically a single, living, divine being. The stars, the planets, the wind, the ocean, they're not just things that were created, they are actual parts of God's body, and they're all animated by this divine spirit that's pulsing through everything. Now, this is where the logic takes a really fascinating turn. Because if you truly believe the universe is one big divine body with its own rhythms and forces, well, a pretty logical conclusion follows. If you can figure out how that body works, you can start to influence it. Maybe even manipulate the spirit that's running the whole show. So how does this actually play out in the real world? This is exactly where things like astrology, reading omens, and different kinds of magic come from. And you've got to understand, these aren't just seen as old superstitions. In this worldview, they're structured methods to try and manipulate the divine, to control your own destiny. All these practices are basically about trying to read and influence the cosmic forces that are believed to run the world. You've got astrology, or Mianon, which looks to the stars to figure out the future. Then there's Nichush, which is all about taking random events and interpreting them as secret signs or omens. And segulot, that involves using special charms or chants to get protection or some kind of advantage. In every single case, the goal is the same: get an edge by figuring out how to work the system. This quote just brings the whole idea of reading omens to life, doesn't it? It's not some abstract philosophical thing. It's a practical, day-to-day decision-making tool. You see a fox, and boom, you believe the universe is sending you a direct message that completely changes your plans for the day. So you can see the pattern here, right? In this way of thinking, nothing is ever just a random event. Dropping your staff isn't just you being clumsy. No, it's a cosmic warning sign about your trip. The planets aren't just giant rocks floating in space. They're actively controlling whether your business deals succeed or fail. Your entire life becomes this game of decoding signs to steer your own fate. And this really gets to the heart of it. The goal isn't to build a faithful, trusting relationship with a higher power. It's about trying to figure out the system, find the cheat codes, and basically bribe or manipulate the divine to get whatever it is you want. Okay, let's hit pause on all of that and switch gears completely. We're going to pivot to a totally different path now. And this one doesn't start with a spirit inside the universe. It starts with a creator who exists entirely outside of it. This is the absolute game changer. The creator is separate from the creation, just like a painter is separate from their painting. The universe isn't God's body, it's God's handiwork. And that one single shift in perspective, it changes absolutely everything. And because you can't manipulate a painter by just messing with their painting, the entire goal just flips on its head. You can't control the creator. So instead of trying to read secret signs to control the future, the focus turns inward. It becomes about intentionally appreciating the present moment as a gift from that creator. So what does this path of connection actually look like in practice? Well, it centers on a daily discipline, one that's designed to build a habit of intentional awareness and, you guessed it, gratitude. In a classic Jewish philosophical work, the Kuzari, this practice is laid out really clearly: the intentional recitation of at least 100 blessings every single day. And the point isn't just to mumble some words. It's about actively training your mind, building that mental muscle of constant, grateful awareness. The source uses this incredible analogy for a life lived without this intentional gratitude. It says it's like being a drunken man at a huge feast. You're surrounded by all these amazing pleasures, good food, friends, music. But if you're not truly present and aware, you perceive nothing. The whole experience is just lost on you. So each of those 100 blessings is like a structured moment designed to break you out of the autopilot of daily life. You pause before you eat a piece of fruit. You acknowledge it, not as just some object, but as a gift. You verbally connect by saying a blessing. And in doing that, you transform a simple, unconscious act into a mindful experience of true gratitude. So, at the end of the day, when you boil it all down, we're looking at two fundamentally opposed ways of engaging with the world. One is driven by a deep desire for control, and the other by a deep desire for connection. And here it is, the central conflict in a nutshell. On one side, you have a philosophy that tries to decode and control the system from the inside. On the other, a philosophy that seeks to connect with the architect who is standing outside the system. It really comes down to a choice between power and gratitude. So, this distinction leaves us with a pretty profound question. And it's not just about philosophy, it's about our own lives. When you're looking for meaning, what's your first impulse? Are you trying to find the levers of control? Or are you looking for moments of genuine, mindful connection? The answer might just reveal more than you think.